Yeah, like I was saying, it feels like I need to be perfect to be considered. It's like people talk about looks and stuff and all that stuff, but there's like multiple really hierarchies, and I find I really kind of see them more. You know, attractiveness and like physical is one, yes, but like there's genuinely like a racial hierarchy, and unironically, I mean, like look at dating apps. Dating apps, they have like white men at the top, Asian women at the top for the women, and white women right under that, and then like, you know, stuff, you know, maybe Asian men at the bottom for the men, but like black women least desired for the women, black men, there's like, you know, some like ups and downs with that. And it's like, it's like you're just kind of like being there's like power dynamics in your race, It's not just like, oh, date somebody in your league, where it's like if you're somebody attractive and you're dating somebody like who's less attractive than you, has less options, they are, more at your whim. They are kind of, in less of a position than you because you're fine without them. They're a lot, a lot harder for them without you. So it's this sort of power play. Same thing with like money, right? I mean, here in China, like realizing like, for me to fly over to China was like, that plane ticket is it's a pretty good amount for me. But like take a Chinese person and then like even the ones who are better paid, they just their currency is just a lot less like far going as the US. So it's not like I can just fly over, go back, and then just the same thing for like a Chinese person to fly over and come back. Like I've met multiple people who are like, I can like never go to the US. Like I'm like, oh, just like or like maybe like they just talk about the US. I'm like, oh, it's like I can never afford that, and it's like because they like genuinely can't because it's actually gonna be like a huge portion of their like living, and that's nuts. That's nuts to me in a way. I mean, it's not nuts that that is a thing like in the world, but it's just nuts that like China, this up and coming power, that's a thing here. And then yeah, and then there's race too, because the world is kind of anti-black no matter how you look at it. You know, tell me why you go to Europe. I mean, obviously Europe is probably going to be kind of racist. Okay. The thing is, there's always like a group that's othered, always, no matter where, because it's just easy to just assign blame and everything. But like, I'll go to America and like, you know, racist history, like all this stuff. You go to China, everybody wants to be light, and like, black is not white. It's not like I'm a white foreigner, coming to China, which is completely different than a black foreigner. It's just not the same because the white foreigner is like there's a template at least. There's in the movies and stuff, and like you've seen like white people in these Hollywood films, you just see like caricatures of black people. And I can't tell you how many times it's like people don't think I even know the language at all, even when I'm like with people who are just straight up speaking or like stuff like that. And people are always like, oh, but they turn into some sort of like fucking like this one of those fucking like surprise speaking videos. Like those guys who like are like, oh, they didn't know I speak Chinese and overheard them, and then when I spoke, I surprised them. People are like, oh yeah, then you pull that out, right? And you probably like feel so good, and it's like, I don't even feel that comfortable with my Chinese in general. And then, you know, why would I perform for these people? Why am I so caught up and having to prove that I speak the language. Why would I do that? It feels hollow. Like this thing, like the consolation that they give you is like, oh, if they don't think you speak it, or if they like have a stereotype about you, just like say stuff and then you break it, and that's great. And it's just like I don't know why I would do that, to be honest, because one person, if I do it to one person, it's not like it's gonna change anything about it, and I can't just like feel satisfied. This is what I mean by turn my brain off. It's not like I just feel satisfied doing that and getting a reaction. It's like it's just a reminder of like, oh, like literally, people will short circuit if you do this just because it's like so out of what you are. Like you should not be doing this. And it's just it's a lot. It's a lot of the time, you know. Like I am never going to be like free of this. Like the perceptions of others. And it's not like the perception of others like, oh, don't care, be yourself. It feels like um it doesn't matter what self I am because every trait's gonna be read negatively. And you know, like I don't know what to do with that. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do about like love. I don't really care about love that much, at least ideologically. Like I don't want to, but I kind of just feel starved for like connection in a way, not even just romantic, but just like being seen consistently. And I can feel like how much power this girl kind of has over me because I'm like so excited. Like she was the one who was like super excited in the beginning, and I just wasn't. I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand why she was excited. It feels like even if I'm perfect, like even if I'm just the perfect person, like you still have to deal with, you know, your family, not having a frame for like a black person, even though I have like, come from like a good background and stuff, there's always this. And it feels like your skin, people talk about difference in class and stuff, but I can lose my class in a day. There could be a freaking financial crisis and it's gone. This shit isn't real, and race isn't real either, but as long as people look different, there's gonna be a lesser, and that just kind of happened to be me. I don't think I am the problem. I don't think like my skin is a problem. It's just like unequivocally, it is a constant point of friction in the world to where I even have to think about this. Even the thought of it coming up is like proof of a problem. And this is not just once a day. This is probably every day I've been here. I've thought about it. Every day I've been at home, I thought about it in some capacity. And it's just like, when you're so like tempered and you're so like tuned and trained to this sort of life, you start to see things in ways that other people around you don't see. You know, I'm able to make friends with Chinese people, and like, I have all these stories and I can joke around in Chinese, and it like requires like a lot of being able to read the room, having a decent grasp of the language at the same time, be able to read the room quickly and respond quickly and grammatically correct. There's so many things that goes on, but then it's like the more I'm like this, the less likely I am to be seen. A complex white guy, is just like, okay, he might be a lie, like, wow, like this guy's a character, or like something, he's something, but there's like eccentric white guys, or there's like poly, like multifaceted white guys, but people don't have a frame for like a black person like that. They don't have a frame for me. And what that means is nobody can really fully see me, and that hurts. And when somebody even like glimpses and like sort of accepts it, or like just something like gives me the bare minimum or something, it feels like it's a lifeline, and I like want to grab onto it like so hard and not let it go. You know, it's just like, and I have self-respect. Like it's not like I just do shit and fully cast away my self-respect. But the issue is, um, not losing your self-respect has a huge cost too, and I don't think it's talked about. When I, don't sell, when I do stuff and do all this, I do the shit, and you don't settle, and you don't do this, and you don't let people walk over you and stuff. Even then, it just takes so long to even find somebody who might be, you know, a connection point for you. And then you're just terrified of losing it. And it's low key worse than if you never had it, because you know what it's like, in a way at least, even if it was like subpar. And I just hate, um, I hate so many things. Like just how we're social creatures, but then it's like we have mechanisms to exclude people and be horrible to people, but yet we like crave connection, and yet I still like need this, and I still feel like I need this stuff, when my whole life it's like, you don't even get it fully seen. And it's just like horrible. It's like, if this was like a skill or something and you could train it, like I would be a master. I'd be somebody who didn't need like anyone else and just nothing else. But it's like I don't, and I still like, I don't know, I just don't like shit. And yeah,